this contest set for one fall is for the WWE Championship.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Welcome to Around the Turnbuckle. I'm Big Al. That's the professor right there. And joining us is the one and the only, thank God for that, classic Johnny Potter.
Back by popular demand. How we doing?
We're excellent, man. We got a comment already from our friend Big Dave. Big Dave says it's Sunday night. And you know what that means. And we're excited to see what the professor's #1 fan is cooking this weekend.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Love it. So before we get into that, Johnny, a few program notes, okay? First and foremost, next Sunday here on our normal time slot, there is no show, okay? I'm on vacation starting tomorrow, and the professor is going to be coming off of his SWO, calling of the SWO Summer Series 8 over there in Red Lion, Pennsylvania. The professor and probably the Wolfman, or he might be joined by others, on commentary for SWO's big event in Red Lion this Saturday. So next Sunday, we don't have a guest lined up on purpose because we're not going to have a show. So we got classic Johnny Potter tonight and his state of the professional wrestling in general. But I can also report to all of you right now that on the following Sunday, that is Sunday, August the 20th at 6 p.m., for a record, Keith, five times, Merrick, Miami will be here on Around the Turnbuckle on Sunday, August the 20th. And he has a huge announcement that he's going to break right here on Around the Turnbuckle, so you don't want to miss that.
Do not.
Meantime, you can see the professor and all the stars of SWO in Red Lion, Pennsylvania, this Sunday for SWO Summer Series 8, including Ace Dallas and Sonny Kiss, AEW superstar Sonny Kiss versus Kimberly Spirit. And you also see Ricardo Rodriguez, formerly of the WWE, at that event in a 6-man tag with Dog Nation. So you don't want to miss that. It's going to be a big event. And Keith, I know you're excited about it.
Excited, nervous. I cannot wait. We've gotten great feedback so far from all the SWO fans. Thank you guys so much for that. Everybody really seems to be enjoying that we have the commentary thing going right now. And I just want to keep living up to those standards and keep making those fans happy with what we're doing.
Now, classic Johnny Potter.
Yes.
So a couple of weeks ago, you contacted me and you said, I need to come on Around the Turnbuckle and I need to explain some things. And I need to explain the state of professional wrestling in general. But before we get into that, can you remind everybody who classic Johnny Potter is and what you've done in the wrestling business over the past couple years?
Okay, if you don't know now, you know. Classic Johnny Potter. I have been in the game since 2018. I have managed in Triple WA. I have managed in PCWA, RWF, Valor Pro, Eclipse Pro. I've lost track of so many because I haven't really been around that. You know, it took some time away. So, but I'm still here, and I still may just pop up somewhere. We never know.
This is true. And speaking of popping up, I want to offer my appreciation that you do pop up and watch our show. You do comment, and often you have something to say not so nice about my partner over there. Like, do you have a problem with the professor? Like, or do you just have a problem with his opinions?
I do not have a problem with Mr. Professor Keith at all. I mean, maybe his opinions, but you know what to say about everyone. You know, everyone has opinions, right?
That's correct.
I'm not going to finish the rest.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. All right. So, floor is yours. What do you want to talk about first? Because there's a lot to talk about when it comes to professional wrestling. You mentioned during the pre-show, we all get together. We mentioned WWE. We mentioned the independents. We mentioned AEW. So, what do you want to roll out first?
Well, you know, one thing that popped in my head whenever it came closer to the time for us to be on was like, you know, last time we talked, Vinnie Mac was in some hot water, and guess what? I seen he is again.
Yep.
I don't know if people are not being very quiet or possibilities are endless.
So what do you know? Like, what have you read? What do you know? And then I'm going to ask Keith the same question.
Well, I mean, all I've really read is, you know, they've busted the books open again, basically. You know, I've seen the money being talked about, and yeah, Vinnie Mac hasn't learned. Either that or there might be some people that might have it in for him.
You think it's internal?
I mean, it could be.
I mean, that's been my theory all along.
It could be.
The professor had to stop off. The professor had to step off there for a minute. So while he did that, I have a question for you from our friend Chris Vant. What's up, Chris? And he goes, "What were your thoughts on SummerSlam? Did you watch SummerSlam?"
Yes, I did. I did.
What did you think?
Well, I mean, it was very predictable because I was actually talking
I'm hearing that word a
son.
lot. Predictable.
Yeah, it was very predictable. Like, I was talking with my son. I mean, he just popped in. I was talking to my son. I said, "Tony, you do realize that Jimmy's going to turn on Jay?" He says, "No, he's not. No, he's not." He did. I even said Io's going to cash in and win,
which he did.
Right. And of course, I mean, this is about the only thing that he and I agreed on was the fact that LA Knight won the pointless Slim Jim Battle Royal.
Yeah.
But and I got a few things to say about that, but we'll kind of like hold off on that for a minute.
We'll get there.
But I mean, you say it's predictable, and I didn't get a chance to watch it, but I did get a chance to read results. And I mean, predictable in a bad way, though, because what I'm looking at with most of it, I mean, Cody should have gone over Brock. That happened. And Brock put Cody over, which is great. You had Gunther beating Drew McIntyre. Like, there's really nothing on the show other than the questionable decision to have an MMA match, which I understand what they were trying to do and get across with that. But,
right.
I mean, other than that rotten idea, and I mean, you could maybe question splitting the Usos apart. But I mean, other than that, you know, it's predictable, but is it predictable in the wrong way?
Well, I mean, it's predictable in the wrong way because now, especially with this bloodline thing, like anymore, you could tell what's going to happen before it even happens. I mean, they could have, instead of doing the obvious, because everybody heard Jimmy and Jay saying they wanted to have a match against each other at WrestleMania. So they're basically, you know, making their dream come true. But, you know, they could have turned that so many ways. Like, I mean, granted, Zilla's probably still pretty green, but, you know, he's working with Booker T's Reality of Wrestling. They could have brought him in for a one-off spot. But it's predictable.
Yeah, the thing of the matter is with that word, I mean, predictable, like Keith said, it can be good or it can be bad. And just because it's predictable to fans that know better doesn't mean that it's predictable to everyone. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, there was some, like, you could see the audience reaction. Like, you could see the shock value of some of them, because not everybody is, you know, we live in a world where we've been involved with independent wrestling. We've been behind the scenes. We know. call us smart, call us marks, call us whatever you want to call us. But the thing of the matter is that we know more than some of the fans that were actually in attendance know. So you
Right.
watch their reactions to certain
Right.
moments that happen, and we call them predictable. And we're like, oh, yeah, we knew that was going to happen. That's how we feel about it. But they loved it. I mean, the majority were like, oh, it's Jimmy. You know, when he pulls the hood down, the dramatic thing and all that stuff. You know, you knew it was him. But I mean, at the same time, you know, I'm watching it with my son, and he knew it was going to happen, but he still popped for it. He's like, oh, it's Jimmy. And you know what I'm saying? You have that natural reaction to it. But, like, even though it's predictable, doesn't make it bad.
Right.
Say, you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, and maybe it's because I got told whenever I got into the business, the exact words to me was, "You're not gonna be able to watch pro wrestling the same anymore because you're gonna know what's going to happen before it happens."
Yeah.
Right.
I kept saying no, and then finally, first time watching after being in the business, all I'm thinking is, "Son of a bitch, he was right."
Yeah, it's an organic thing, you know.
Mhm.
Keith and I talk about it all the time. I mean, even he's commentary. I'm like doing ring announcing. So we got to know. We got to be part of the show. We got to know what's going to happen. So we got, you know what I'm saying. So it's like knowing that it's not the same as if I'm sitting in the front row and I'm like, okay, this is going to be a great match, and I don't know what's going to happen. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Oh, that's my little girl. She's doing emojis.
So she sent, and it says she sent a pink waving emoji, but on a YouTube channel it comes up, it spells it out. You know what I'm saying? So if she tried an emojis don't come up; they just spell them out. I don't know why.
She's watching from the living room. I don't know.
It's a StreamYard thing. Like, it's a StreamYard thing. She could be watching on YouTube and send an emoji, and if she sends a bunch of smiling faces or laughing faces, it's going to literally say multi-laughing faces.
Right.
I don't know why. It must be a StreamYard thing. I don't know. Because I don't see it happening on other YouTube shows. Like, you know what I'm saying? You know, not that ours is one of those that, you know, millions of people watch. I'm just saying it's.
But if millions of you want to start watching, we will grudgingly accept it.
Yeah.
Listen, every time I'm on here, it brings up the demographic to 18,000. So, hey, we're good. I mean, I'm kind of being sarcastic, but.
It brings up the demographic to 18, not 18,000, but, you know.
Hey, that works for me, too. It's a high number. It's better than one.
It absolutely is. And we appreciate everybody that's watching. But I hope you guys did enjoy SummerSlam. There were some things, like you said, the Bloodline thing is the Bloodline thing. They're going to try to milk that as long as possible. I think they're going to drag the Bloodline thing all the way to WrestleMania 40.
Yeah.
But so they have to keep coming up with different things for them to do, and this is that thing right now. With EO cashing in, she literally told you she was going to do that on one of the recent SmackDowns or something. She came out and cut a promo and said, "By the way, I don't care if you win or Charlotte wins or Bianca Belair wins. I'm walking out with the title," and she told us she was doing it. So
right.
So what, you know, predictable is predictable. I think that overall the show was pretty good. You know, predictable is predictable, and I mean, you made the audience happy all night with LA Knight winning the Battle Royal and then EO cashing in. Like, those were moments that made the audience happy. And then you did the Roman, then with Roman winning at the end.
Right.
Did anybody in the building or anybody watching at home really think Jey Uso was winning the world title? I don't think that. You knew something was going to happen.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure there are folks that walk into every show thinking this will be the show, but I mean, I think it's Cody Rhodes next year at WrestleMania.
Right.
I really do.
JCM's
it makes the only sense.
JCM's here says match of the night, in my opinion, was Logan and Ricochet. Logan impressed me every match he does. As much as I hate to agree with you, I'm going to agree with you. Not that it was match of the night, but that the part where Logan impresses me. The fact that Logan Paul is taking this seriously and actually is trying to learn what to do and not make a mockery of the business. He actually goes out there and he puts his body on the line and does the best he can. And he's a hell of an athlete. We can't not say that.
He's not human. He and Ricochet are not human. The stuff they were doing.
Oh, it was insane. It was a very great, well put together match. I agree with you. Whether it was match of the night, that's the debate. But Logan Paul has my respect as far as he's a guy that's just like a YouTube megastar. You know, he came up with an idea. He ran with it. He's made a ton of money on it. So now he's got this following that WWE's like, we could tap into that audience. And that's why he's part of WWE. It's why he has a contract. He only has to wrestle 2 or 3 times a year. And when he does, it's an attraction. And putting him in there with Ricochet, who could go move for move with anybody, it made for an entertaining thing, sure. What do you think, Johnny?
He could be a flippy attraction all he wants, as long as they don't put a damn belt on him. I'll be happy.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
Well, he did fight Roman, and took Roman to the
lost. That's the important part.
Right. That's right. Okay, so your daughter's back. Says when we saw that LA Knight won the match, I was excited. My brother and dad were jumping off the walls. You on the LA Knight bandwagon there, Johnny? She just let that.
Listen. I have been a fan ever since way before Eli Drake, Sean Ricker. Like, that's how far back I go with liking LA Knight.
Yeah, and I mean, talk about a guy who's paid his dues, right? He's been in the WWE system for 10 years.
Yeah.
And he's 40 now, and I mean, he just bided his time, and then the fans decided that they like him. They were trying to make him a heel, and the fans decided, no, he's our guy. We're gonna cheer for him. He cheated to win, and they cheered him anyway. You know what I'm saying? So now they're like, okay, we need to just roll. Are we stupid? Why are we going against the grain? You know what I'm saying?
And they see the merchandise numbers too. They see all the indicators of like, we're dumb not to push him.
What's next for Drew McIntyre after losing to Gunther? That's a great question.
Sign a contract and find out, buddy. Because the last I checked, he doesn't have a contract. If he doesn't have a contract, you're not going to put him in a position like that and let him beat Gunther. He's going to be looking at the lights if he doesn't sign another contract, because he's out at the end of the year if he doesn't. What else can you do with him?
I know what they'll do. They'll promise him the world, make him. He'll go ahead and sign his contract, then they'll shit on him and put him right back down in mid card.
Yeah, that old Booker thing. Let's fuck him. No. Let's bring him in, build him up a little bit, get him signed, and then we'll fuck him.
That's what I'd do.
I butchered that, but I know I heard that once where it was like, you don't screw him over, you don't fuck him by firing him, you fuck him by getting him tied to you, and then you beat him and you fuck him that way if you really want to fuck with somebody. That's
what I'd do.
All right, so we talked about SummerSlam, so let's go back to Vinnie Mac. What is the fallout? Like, what happens now?
I mean, didn't they make some, I don't know, trying to figure out what the word is for it. Didn't they make some little group within the organization that's supposed to do something if there is another investigation against him?
I know they had the investigation the first time. From what I understand, this is the government coming in and looking at that investigation over again. So it's not that there's new charges. It's the old stuff to make sure, I guess, that was all by the book and there was no bias and it wasn't just, Vince handpicked a committee to exonerate him. They want to make sure that everything was on the up and up. The other thing too is everything is full steam ahead with the Endeavor deal, from what I understand. And once that deal closes, Vince is a minority owner. Vince isn't the power within the company. He's still going to have a fancy schmancy title, but he's not going to be able to just walk into a creative meeting and go, "Oh, I hate everything that's going on," rip up the script and write everything on a napkin that night and go, "We're doing this now, pal." Like that's done. That will be over once Endeavor has control of it. So I don't know if this is something he needs to worry about. He hasn't been charged with anything yet. He's just been subpoenaed. Or this is just a case of getting all the regulatory T's crossed and I's dotted, and it's just a matter of making sure that Endeavor isn't basically getting in bed with somebody that could have a nasty criminal charge pop out of nowhere from all of this.
Yeah, I think maybe he should have just stayed his ass at home and let somebody else do the sale, and it probably would have been done by now. And everybody would have lived happily ever after. And if Vince had something that was still hiding in his closet, it'd still be there.
Yeah, I mean, I think because people are so worried about having him there, and to me, it's kind of like I feel like it's almost him playing with the toy and kind of enjoying the fact that he's still in charge until he's not in charge, that he knows by the end of the year, if nothing screws up this Endeavor deal, and all signs are nothing will screw it up, it's going to happen, that this is a case of like, let me enjoy being Vince McMahon one last time and having the power, because once they come in, he's a stockholder like anybody else. He's got more stock than almost anybody else, and he'll certainly get paid, but there's nothing to stop them from sticking him in an office and basically turning him into a consultant that they don't listen to, like he's had other people that were listed as consultants that they were turning in the notes, and he was just going like, "Yeah, thanks, Paul. Yeah, thanks, Russo," and just sticking them in a trash can until their contracts expired and he didn't re-sign them.
All right, so
anyway.
All right, so switching gears to AEW. They've announced some of the matches for the big event in Wembley Stadium. They've sold over 70,000 tickets. Your overall thoughts, Johnny, on AEW first before we talk about that.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure the last time we talked about that, I referred to Tony Khan as the biggest mark in pro wrestling, and I stand by that.
Mm-hmm.
And my take, when it comes to storytelling wrestling, I think Collision has more of that compared to Dynamite and Rampage.
Yes.
Like, it seems to me like, I don't know, Twinkle Toes McFinger Bang is my favorite person. Jim Cornette calls Kenny Omega. I think,
it's the other way around.
Well,
Kenny Omega is what everybody calls him, but that's what Jim Cornette calls him.
Well, I mean, regardless, that's telling me that Wednesday nights are a little more for him, and Saturday nights are for the ones that really want to watch actual pro wrestling.
Yeah, and if you look at the talent that's on Collision versus the talent that's on Dynamite, now I know some guys are on both because Tony wants it that way, but like the majority, like the CM Punks, the FTRs, the Samoa Joes, and people like that over on Collision, and then you have the commentary team, which is a completely different thing than you get on Dynamite.
Right.
Collision seems to me to be more of a wrestling show, what a wrestling show should be presented as, versus whatever they're doing in Dynamite.
I agree.
Yeah. Now, as for Rampage, like I think that's an afterthought at this point, and I think eventually they're going to be smart enough to just get rid of Rampage because it's not really needed now. You have 2 live wrestling shows per week. You know, I don't know why you need to have Rampage other than to spotlight people that aren't going to be on those 2 shows. But I mean, you could do that with the other stuff you were doing. They used to spotlight them on like AEW Dark and things like that, and they used to bring indie guys in. Now, listen, overall, I want AEW, and Keith and I, this is one thing Keith and I agree on. I want AEW to exist because it has a place for people that we care about and we talk to all the time, so that the only end game and what they're trying to accomplish in doing this for a living is not WWE. It doesn't have to be WWE. They have other choices. They have Japan, they have Impact, they have AEW. And Tony Khan just keeps throwing money all over the place. I'm just my point. And as you know, you're exactly right. It's a mark who has a lot of money, who's running a company. And does he know how to do that? No, absolutely not. But he needs to hire people who do know how to do that, and it can get better. You know, there are some people there. There is a lot of talent. If you take them all as a whole, as a group, there's a lot of talent there that, in the right hands, can come up with a good show. Collision is proof of that.
But there's also a lot of toxic personalities there, and there's a lot of people that have bad reputations in the wrestling business. If you get outside of, you know, certain dirt sheets that they're friends with that have protected them and told their side of the story and made sure that everybody else is afraid to speak against them because they didn't want to get blackballed.
Right.
And that's the thing. I mean, I want AEW to be successful. I want AEW to grow. The problem is what I see on Dynamite and what I see from the group that's supposed to be the main eventers, it's not going to grow with that going on. And to your point about Rampage is there because Time Warner wants it.
Right.
It's the same thing as the third hour of Raw. WWE doesn't want to do 3 hours of Raw every Monday. They don't. They know it's killing them. They know it's terrible. They know it's horrible to try to have 3 hours of a show and then try to fill the 3 hours and then turn around and ask you to watch more of their product. But their television partner wants it, and when you're most of your money, the lion's share of WWE's revenue, just like AEW, the lion's share is from the television deals. So if your television partner, who is basically paying most of your bills, comes to you and says, we want more content, you're not really in a position to try to explain to them, yeah, you think you want that, but you don't realize that you can have too much and turn people off. You just go, that they're not going to listen to that because they're going to go, no, because it's either you or NCIS marathons of repeat episodes, and you do better than the repeat episodes of NCIS. So I want your ratings. Figure it out. And you figure it out.
Has anybody ever really taken, really noticed to their ratings?
Oh, yeah. And whenever you put the Elite on television, funnily enough, their segments are the lowest.
Yeah.
But also, if you think about this, too, now, Wednesday and Friday, they mainly feature their mascot, Pockets.
They do.
And here's the thing with that. Now, if you really look at numbers before his matches and after, before the matches, they're pretty decent. When it comes to them knowing he's going to be on, they start to decline. Then after he's on, they lose like 70,000 plus. And then they got to scratch a claw just to get it back. I mean, the only other option they really have is to let Jon Moxley bleed, but he even got to ask for permission for that nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, are you seeing what I'm seeing where it seems like I got to ask for permission, yet they seem to get permission to do exactly what they've always been doing? Isn't that funny?
Yeah. They came out with this. They came out with this list of rules.
I thought this was going to be the problem. I hoped it wasn't going to be, but I was worried that because of the way it was phrased and that almost nothing was out and out, like, you will stop doing this today. Regardless, it's done, it's over, it's banned. Almost everything had permission.
Right.
Permission. Ask first. If you ask first, because that's their little idiot move for covering their ass of like, well, we gave them permission, so it's fine. And it's like, because some of this stuff, should stop happening. Fights in the crowd should stop happening because all it takes is one person to miss somebody and hit a fan by accident. All it's going to take is one share shot that goes wrong or something like that. It's a lawsuit waiting to happen. You don't need it. It's not helping you. I don't think anybody's going to tune in or not tune in because, oh, there's no fights in the crowd, or, oh, there's going to be a fight in the crowd. Like, come on, and Tony Khan's not, the local mark promoter where it's like, maybe you give somebody a t-shirt or you let him get a wrestler's autograph or something and maybe they go away. These people know he's got billions of fucking dollars. I'm going to sue.
Right.
I'm going to take a bite out of this guy's wallet. I'm going to get paid.
Speaking of pockets, y'all saw they made him an agent?
No.
They made him a fucking agent.
Really?
Yeah. I forget, there was some episode, I think it was Dynamite or something, a few weeks back, they actually gave him credit for agenting a match. It was one that he had a run-in on, but he got credit for agenting it.
I love too how we're getting so inside, because that always sells, right? Saying like, oh, he's the guy that booked the fake wrestling match. Yeah, that's great. I need to know that.
Right.
I need to know this stuff as I'm watching television and trying to suspend my disbelief.
Hey, I'm just ruining people's lives one step at a time. So,
I mean, it sounds very Vince Russo, doesn't it?
It does.
It does. That's the kind of crap that he always thought was a great idea.
Oh my God! See, here's the problem. Okay, so I have you on here, the state of professional wrestling, and you're agreeing with the professor about everything. Like you guys are basically on the same wavelength as Jim Cornette.
Yeah.
Because I agree with most of. I listen to Cornette. I agree with most of what he says. Not all of it, but most of it.
No, there's some areas where he's out of touch for sure.
And
no, he's not. 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 No, he's not.
So every word out of his mouth is verbatim, the absolute truth, the end-all, be-all opinion. You can't deny that he's wrong. That you're saying?
100% Jim Cornette can write a Bible, and I'd buy every single copy.
What do you think of Brian Last, Johnny Potter? Do you think he's just Jim Cornette's lapdog, as many people think?
I think he's Jim Cornette's lapdog. He's funny as hell, though, especially whenever
he
they were talking about when they was talking about Matt Hardy having his little Twitter meltdown and the things he was saying back to him. That was great. Yeah. That was a great laugh on the way to work.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. Listen, he moves the show along. He kind of keeps Jim Cornette grounded because Jim Cornette can go off on tangents about whatever. I mean, he even talks about his bowel movements and whatever, blah blah blah, because he still thinks that's funny. And Brian Last will react. He'll just be like, "What? Like, what are you talking about?"
Yep.
And it's funny. But that's their
Jim
thing.
Doesn't give a shit. Jim just doesn't care.
Right.
Podcast is doing what the podcast doing, but he's independently wealthy. If that podcast lost every listener tomorrow, shut down, he couldn't make money off of it anymore, he'd still be sitting there on the front lawn of the castle going, I still got all the fuck you money in the world. I don't need it.
Right.
That's true, but he's got 400,000 followers, and so he's got a platform to sell his merchandise.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that's the thing too. I think people forget is that you hating him is just making him richer. He's got it all figured out. He doesn't need to engage with anybody. He's said it a million times. The Bucks have tried to get in touch with him and tried to rope him into her shit, and he's like, "Nah, guys, I'm not working. I don't like you. I don't like you, and I don't want to work with you, and I don't have to, so I'm not gonna."
Here's a question for you, Johnny. What brought you into wrestling in the first place? Watching it, or were you an athlete? Where does that love come from?
I was always watching. I mean, there was a time I came on here and I said about the fact that my grandmother always hated me watching wrestling because I ripped open my church shirt one day like Hulk Hogan, and it all went downhill from there. But I always cheered for the bad guy, never for the good guy. So everyone was like, let's go Hulk. I'm like Iron Sheik,
Roddy Piper.
Yes, Roddy Piper, absolutely.
Abrielle. We like listening to Jim Cornette talk in his mic, and his voice is so loud.
He doesn't have an indoor voice. He really doesn't.
No, we don't. But they do. They love listening to Corny with me, and
But he's
we
on twice
even.
a week. I
Yep.
mean, and he keeps up with all the stuff. And poor Brian, Brian Last makes him watch everything. Now, by
Yep.
his own admission, he skips through crap he doesn't like.
Yeah.
He doesn't like women that, I want to open up this one to you, Johnny, and I don't know if Keith's going to have the same. See, this is going to be one that I don't think Keith's going to necessarily have the same opinion as you. But Cornette skips through like all the time most of the women's matches, unless it's like Charlotte versus Rhea or something like that. He has absolutely zero interest in almost every women's match. Do you?
Well, same, unless it involves Sky Blue, then I have my attention. If we're talking about AEW, I'll sit through a Sky Blue match and I'll take notes.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, women's wrestling, the snooze fest, bathroom break.
You feel that way, Keith?
I mean, I feel like it's down to individual performers because I feel like we're getting to this place where I want to be careful how I say it.
It's a loaded gun, right? Because all the women out there, and we don't have a lot of women watch this, but when they do, are going to be like, you better not fucking say it.
And I don't want to be dismissive about it because there is good women's wrestling out there. The problem is that there is not uniformly good women's wrestling out there. There's a handful of women that are really good, and then there's a lot of amateurs that are trying to claim they're professionals, and their work is not great. You can see the botches when I'm watching them learn versus when I watch a lot of the guys learn. They come off more obvious when they blow a spot and seem like they're getting lost more easily. Like I remember there was that cluster ladder match in NXT a couple of years ago. When them were still down there. And there was one point in the match where they had blown a spot and they all just froze like deer in the headlights. Like, we don't know how to get this back. Who's going to be the person to figure it out? And I'm just like, oh, this is painful. Oh, this is so painful. So I think, there's some women wrestlers that are great, but the problem is I just don't think there's enough to support the amount of titles that are in the two major promotions right now, and I don't think there's enough good stuff. To me, it's kind of like the tag team division in 98 or so. If you have 2 or 3 or 4 good women in your company, that's enough to probably sustain a division. You don't need to try to go and get the depth charts of what you have for like the men, because I don't see as many great workers out there to support it.
Piggybacking off of what you said, going back to SummerSlam, we had Ronda Rousey versus Shayna Baszler, and I think that they could have switched that match out with Becky versus Trish. You guys agree with that or no?
It should have.
No,
why not?
No, because once again, we're going back to being predictable. Ronda Rousey been saying she was going to be leaving, and there was her way out. So, of course, they had to show it. And Becky and Trish, that's already been played out. They already took care of that. So, on to the next.
Yeah, but the problem with Ronda versus Shayna in an MMA fight in a WWE ring is that they tried to make it a WWE version of an MMA fight in a WWE ring, and that's not going to work.
Who wants to watch a work shoot fight? Honestly,
right? That's what I'm saying.
I know.
Why not just put them in the octagon because they didn't want to offend UFC?
No, I mean, I know what they wanted to do. They wanted to create the idea that Shayna is better than Ronda, Ronda's own game, blah, blah, blah. It didn't work. It's not going to work because, again, why would I want to watch a football game that's a work? Why would I want to watch a baseball game that's a work? Like, you don't tune into wrestling to watch something else.
Right.
You tune in to watch wrestling, and I think that was the problem here, is that don't do something you don't know how to do.
Chris is here, said Ronda's going back to UFC, but that match was horrible to watch.
I doubt Ronda's going back to UFC. I think Ronda's out of UFC.
She's just gonna be a mom.
Ronda got beat
She
up
wants to
and
go
exposed.
get pregnant again, then she'll be back later and everything.
Yeah, Ronda got exposed in MMA. Like Lesnar left because Lesnar physically can't do it anymore.
Right.
Nobody beat the shit out of an exposed Brock Lesnar. He lost matches, but nobody beat the shit out of him and exposed him and proved that, like, you don't belong here, son. Ronda got figured out. Ronda benefited from being the first. And then everybody said it. She got lazy. She got complacent. Her camps didn't take care of her. Her trainers didn't take care of her. And these women came in that were like, okay, we want to be seen as actual competitors. So they lapped her in terms of skill and everything else. They beat her up. They exposed her. And UFC was like, okay, we're done. We'll build this division without you. And Ronda went and cashed in wrestling. And you can't blame her for doing that. But I don't think it's
Anthony's here. Anthony says, let me talk to you. Finn Balor and Seth Rollins.
Huh.
I guess he wants you to talk about Finn Balor and Seth Rollins.
Oh,
And that is a cool profile pic with the baseball bat on the neck and on
sure it is. My boy's getting ready to play fall baseball, so there's going to be a lot more coming up.
I used to play baseball.
But let's see. I mean, now, the only thing that I keep asking throughout this whole thing is, when is Priest going to cash in?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, now, I'm not going to lie. I was trying to predict if that was going to happen during that, and I couldn't predict that at all. But now, is this going to get to the point where all three of them are going to be going at it at Payback, and then is Priest going to go ahead and grab the case at the end and beat the hell out of both of them, cash in and win, or like, what's going to come up from this? I don't know. I'm feeling the lazy booking thing, but
here's my take on that. They kind of let the cat out of the bag because there's been already advertisements for Payback floating around out there that it's going to be a triple threat match for the title between Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, and Damian Priest. Now, how they can work that is to make Priest look strong, because Keith will agree that we don't like so much, especially in the men's, not so much what EO did, because what EO did was pretty cool. But in the men's division, when a man cashes in, especially a heel champ, it kind of and he kind of picks the bones in 3 seconds. It kind of discredits the win. You know what I'm saying? Where you could have the first ever heel winner, because it's usually a face that does this. Usually a face will say, I want a match at SummerSlam or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Where Damian Priest could come on Raw or SmackDown or whatever this week and say, I want a match at Payback against both of you. And that's how I'm cashing in my money in the bank. That's how I'm getting my match. This is how the powers that be want you guys to have a rematch. I'm putting myself in that match with this money in the bank. And you could do that. Now, you can call it lazy booking if you want, because it's a triple threat match. There's going to be no rules, blah, blah, blah. But that could be a way to make Priest look strong. And what if Priest beats both of these guys?
Yeah, but still, lazy booking.
With Cody Rhodes win, now what? What do you do with Cody?
You keep shining him up for Mania.
That's the only thing you really can do, sadly. I mean,
me and Chris were arguing during SummerSlam. We were arguing about that Cody Rhodes, he's going back to Mania 39, that Cody Rhodes should have had the title then. No. How much more do you want Cody to have the title now?
Yeah.
Do you see what they're doing? You put him in this program with Brock. He wins 2 out of 3 against Brock. He beat him clean Saturday night.
And Brock put him
clean.
Over. And Brock put him over.
Yeah, Brock put him over.
And Brock raises his freaking hand up. I mean, that's just like you said, Keith, shining it up. And now, what do you do with him now? I mean, you give him somebody else.
Yeah, you keep him strong, you keep
You
him
keep him away
interesting.
from Roman, but you give him somebody who's credible, and you could have a feud with leading up to the Royal Rumble or whatever. I don't know. You figure it out. And I mean, my idea is to have Cody beat Roman at the Rumble.
I get it, but then it's like, because the problem is, like,
it doesn't have to be Mania. To me, it doesn't have to be Mania.
Yeah, but like what I keep saying is, if you look at it, Roman is the biggest dragon that somebody can slay right now, in terms of anywhere, any wrestling company. The way he's been built up, nobody's had the title anywhere close to what he has in the last 30 years. He just eclipsed Pedro Morales' record. He's closing it. I mean, not rapidly, but I mean, he's going to be close to Hogan's first title reign by the time it's all said and done.
Yep.
Nobody is ever going to have that. Well, I can't say ever, because I mean, I would have said before Roman, nobody would ever have the belt like a Pedro Morales or somebody like that would. That we just don't do that anymore. So I can't say. So I mean, that's probably a never say never lesson, but it's going to probably be a very long time before anybody has that belt anywhere near as long as Roman has.
Right.
So you only get one shot to slay that dragon. And people were trying to say, "Oh, give it to Jay," and it's like, but Jay got there were two big milestones that you could get out of Roman. The guy that pins or submits him for that first time in 3 years.
Yep.
And you could either use the second shot on the same guy, which I feel like you don't need to. Of the guy that takes the title, finally takes the title away from him. And you could make two guys because you had two bullets from that same gun to be able to make people with. To me, if you have Roman get beat somewhere before Mania, which is like your big culmination, history is made, that's kind of a Mania brand. If you're going to have something major and historic happen, that's where you do it. I mean, and now you've got the whole Brock Cody kind of unlikely alliance thing. I mean, you can do something where going into Mania now, Brock Lesnar comes out and works Cody Rhodes' corner. And you can play that into a storyline of last year where it was, well, the bloodline screwed Cody last year, so Brock will be the enforcer that keeps the bloodline out of it. I mean, there's a lot of different things you can do, but I just don't see him flipping the belt before Mania.
Here's my idea.
I can see Johnny hates that idea.
Good. I'm going to let Johnny throw whatever he wants to say. But my idea is the reason why I mentioned him winning in at the Rumble is because Cody won the Rumble last year. So rather than have Cody win the Rumble again, which puts him in the ring with Roman at Mania, you could have a 2 or 3 month buildup at the end of the year leading into next year for their match at Royal Rumble. You could have him win, but also set up Roman's opponent at WrestleMania 40 and also have somebody win the Rumble who ends up being Cody's opponent at WrestleMania 40. So you get 2 matches out of that is what I'm saying.
You do, but I don't know that those 2 matches would be the same level of importance or impact as doing Cody Roman 2 1 year later. And it doesn't have to be the Rumble because you have the Elimination Chamber too. That's supposed to be a way to determine a number 1 contender. And your whole idea with Cody is like the Dusty thing, where it's like Dusty chasing the world champion for so long and things getting put in his way and he's getting screwed over in the chase and the chase and the chase. So you could have Cody get close and he's just about to win the Rumble. Maybe it's him and whoever the eventual winner is. And then that guy fucks Cody over, throws him over the top rope. And now Cody's got to survive the Elimination Chamber. But now to make it even worse, it's like, okay, we've got, the biggest, baddest fucking monsters in the company. And by the way, you have to start. And you have to go the entire match to be able to win. Like, you just create obstacle after obstacle after obstacle for him to win.
Johnny, you look intrigued. Go ahead, buddy.
I personally think they could have sent Cody to the back of the line, but they got to kiss his ass because of Stardust. So I agree with Al. We need to do absolutely. They need to kiss his ass because of Stardust. Granted, it got over, but it sucked all at the same time. But I agree with Al. They should do it at the Rumble. He don't need his WrestleMania flowers. He already had that moment with Seth Rollins, so
he main evented WrestleMania already. I don't know if they're going to let him do it again.
They don't need to. They don't need to. Do it at the Rumble. Set something up for somebody who they actually want to see main event. And with the fact that this man's riding that bolt of lightning right now, they need to really, before he fizzles out, is push LA Knight to the damn moon.
Well, I was told after SummerSlam here, him winning last night is the first step in them resetting and getting him on the rocket ship.
But not for the title. He doesn't have to go straight to the title. He can be United States champion first.
Right.
But in the long run, he's got to go a little higher than that.
Yeah, but he's not going to get there by Mania is my point. He's not winning the Royal Rumble.
Obviously.
I think that, if by the time Mania rolls around, if Randy Orton's medically cleared, there's a story to tell there. During the documentary they just put out on Peacock, Randy Orton was Cody's first match on TV on WWE.
And
you had the legacy thing, and yes,
you got all that still.
So I think that Randy versus Cody has to happen sometime or another, but I think he has to finish the story with Roman first before he starts that one. That's my point.
But the Rumble got to be where they stop it. He don't need to main event Mania again.
Right, and then you could even have Randy win the Royal Rumble, which would be a record, right? He's won it 3 times. It could be a 4th time,
right?
That he wins it, which beats like Stone Cold, and he's the all-time most Royal Rumble winner. And then he chooses Cody. So then you have that story, you have that match, and then the main event of WrestleMania 40 is like Roman versus The Rock, or whatever.
Right.
That assumes that Randy can come back because I know he wants to, but I'm not hearing anything of late about.
Yeah, but it's July. I mean, it's August, Keith. It's not.
He's been out for what, a year plus. Like, this is the thing. I think people don't understand how hurt he is. That he's almost in that, and I mean, he's getting old, and he's had a lot of injuries, and. Like, the reason he kept blowing out his shoulder is because he has he was born with it, some kind of condition where he has like a trick shoulder it's much easier for him to dislocate it or break it or whatever. Right. Like, he started out with some stuff that he's just predisposed to medically that works against him being a wrestler. And he's managed to gut through it so far. But that's a lot of why he's been hurt as much as he has. And I really think if he comes back at this point, and I think he's talked about it, of like, I don't want to retire because I'm injured, but if I come back, I have to basically come back for a very short goodbye run before I hurt myself, and that it does become a case of I'm going to have to retire due to injury.
Why does Gunther not get a Universal title shot?
Because he needs to drop the IC belt first.
Yeah, and I mean...
And I think he's brought prestige back to that title. Thank God.
Yeah, they're going to let him beat Honky's reign, and then
he already did.
Let Drew take it
he's already beaten that.
Didn't he? He only had it for like a year and a half. Honky had it for like 2 years. He had
no, he didn't. No. Look that up. Honky only had it for a little bit more than a year. Like it was like 1,000. No, it was not 1,000. It was like 400 something days, and he just beat that after defending it against Drew. I'm pretty sure. Anthony's back. He says, who thought Bray Wyatt was coming back to have a match with? That was a big rumor, right, Anthony? Yeah, I saw that too. I saw a lot of people were talking about Bray Wyatt. What's your thoughts on Bray Wyatt, Johnny?
Well, I mean, they need to get him back. And they need to not drop the ball with him, because my thing with Bray He's a talker. I love listening to him on the microphone. I
Yeah.
mean, his body of work lately isn't all that great, but
Right.
he gets me with the talking. They really need to bring him back. Keep one writer, maybe a couple that like have the same thought process he has, and then they need to strap a rocket ship on him and let him go after Roman, if anything.
I don't think so. I disagree with that totally. I don't think Bray Wyatt needs to be in a program with Roman. I think Bray's an attraction, and can be an attraction if they do it right. But I don't think that he needs a championship. It didn't really work when they put the belt on him. Nobody really cared that he was champion.
Well, because
Most people forget.
everybody knew he was going to lose it. That was the
No,
problem.
I didn't say for him to win it.
He screamed transitional champion because of when he won it, and then he was booked immediately with like Randy Orton, and everybody was like, "Oh, okay, so let's just get the belt to Orton."
And I mean,
exactly what happened.
And I mean, the guy's been on how many leaves of absence because his mind is just not into this anymore. And I don't know if.
Well, I don't know if that's what it is. I know he's out for something medical, and the company is not rushing him back. And I heard that as of 2-3 days ago. That there is no timetable for him to come back. They want him to go deal with whatever is going on medically that he needs to take care of, and they're letting him take care of it.
Well, to me, at this point, I really don't care if he comes back. I don't. I like him. You know, I enjoyed his body of work. I enjoyed the Wyatt family back in the day with what's his name, Big Red and Brody. Red, but they, the whole thing with the Fiend kind of tore me off of him a little bit. I was like, I'm not really into that, and I wasn't into the Funhouse thing or all that kind of stuff too. I kind of washed some stink off of it too. So I don't really care if he comes back. I know he has a fan base and that's great, but I mean, I don't really, if he doesn't come back to WWE, I really don't care. And if he shows up on AEW because someday down the road because Tony's dumb enough to pay him, well, so be it. It's not like I'm not going to have a reaction to that or whatever, but to me, like, one of the things I can't stand about AEW is the House of Black. And because the House of Black doesn't frighten me. It doesn't intrigue me. It doesn't draw me into the screen. You guys aren't The Undertaker. I'm just saying, like, they're not. There's some talent there. I love Buddy Matthews as a wrestling talent. I do. And Aleister Black, Malachi Black, whatever the hell you want to call him, he's had some great matches in the past as well. But as a group, I really don't give a damn. I don't give a damn about the House of Black. I could care less. So I don't know. It's hard.
I agree. Yeah, the House of Black lost their luster before they even got the 6-man titles.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's another. We could talk another hour about the trios titles and its existence. But before
belts ever drawn a dime anywhere ever in the history of the business.
And before we wind this down, I'm going to ask you guys.
World class. I take it back.
Well, I mean, AEWs are only made so Kenny and his buddies could masturbate and play together and have belts for it. So
yeah.
Before we wind this down, I'm going to ask you guys both the same question, and I'm going to let Johnny answer, and then I'm going to let Keith answer, and that is. It's simple. What does WWE have to do to be better, if that's possible? And what does AEW have to do to be better, if that's possible?
Me first?
Yeah.
Okay, what WWE needs to do? I think they need to lay off the lazy booking. I mean, the triple threats being anything goes, and that's all just a way to appease to the fans, and quite frankly, you don't always have to do that. It don't make sense. And AEW, again, they need to actually book a tag team division to fully make sense, because the only thing they really have going for them is FTR. So those are my points.
All right, Keith.
I think WWE needs to stay the course in terms of building the young talent. I think they're doing a fairly decent job of that. I think they need to get rid of some of the booking crutches, like Johnny said, stop having the multi-man matches and things like that just to get people on the shows. But I think they're doing but I think they're in a position where Triple H understands that Vince left the cupboards bare. He did a bad job of building anybody up and making anybody outside of John Cena and Randy Orton, and now it's time to start building people up. LA Knight, it looks like finally they're going to start pushing him and strapping the rocket ship on. You got Gunther as a monster. Gunther only needs, I looked it up, I think he only needs about another month, 2 months, and he'll beat Honky's record because Honky was 484.
Right. That's why I said 400 something days.
Yeah.
So he needs a month. He needs another month.
Another month or two, yeah. Because I think he's up there where like around Randy Savage right now. He hasn't quite eclipsed Randy yet. But I mean, they need to stay the course in terms of building the talent up. I think they need to be careful with the bloodline because I think the bloodline now is definitely on the downward slope. And now we've gotten to a point logically in the story where it's time to start spinning people off and getting people into the next thing. I'm sure once Roman loses the title, he's going to take a break. So you want to make sure all the players and the participants in that are ready to exist without Roman Reigns around.
Is there a guy that can make a big move to WWE?
No.
I don't really see it right now. I don't really. And it's the same thing with AEW. I don't see somebody that you can sign him tomorrow and you're going to get eyeballs on the product. Unless you have some insane, not going to happen moonshot, like Rock decides to quit Hollywood and the XFL and says, I'm coming back to wrestling full time. Or John Cena quits Hollywood and says, I'm coming back to wrestling full time. Even if Steve Austin to a degree, if Steve Austin says, I'm coming back to do whatever I can do, come out every week and drink a beer or whatever. There's no moonshot lightning talent that you're going to sign and everybody is going to go, holy fuck, and it's going to solve all your problems. Because they're too intrinsic, and a lot of it is booking and or front office. In AEW, it's booking and it's front office. You need to put a fucking office together in that company. You really do. Tony needs people that understand wrestling better than he does, that are not running around saying, I know how to book because I had an indie fed on the internet when I was a kid and I did internet wrestling booking. That's not real booking, my friend. That's just not. And he needs honest people around him because right now he gets worked by people trying to be his friends and pushing their agenda. Collision's a good show. And why is Collision a good show? In my opinion, my 2 cents, I think it's because the children don't want to play on Collision. Because Collision has become the area where all the wrestlers and all the adults that the children are mad at, that the EVPs don't want to play with, don't want to talk to, don't want to deal with, they're over there. And Tony is basically admitting, like, I can't book everything. So can you guys just help me out and put that show together? And they're like, yeah, we'll do that because we know at the end of the day, that's going to prove our point that this is what you need to do and not do the stuff you're doing on Wednesday night that your friends and your EVPs are telling you is the way to do professional wrestling.
The last thing, guys, before we get out of here, Anthony just pulled up this. He said Roman Reigns needs to drop the title, and I want to address this. Yes, I agree with you fundamentally, Anthony. However, how much more is it going to mean when it finally does happen to whoever does that? And this is an argument that Chris and I had. Chris was watching SummerSlam. I was watching SummerSlam. We were talking to each other back and forth. Chris Vant, the guy that's been commenting here and asking you guys questions. We were debating about, did Cody losing at WrestleMania? No, that was his chance. Chris's point was, no, that was it. He's not going to get another chance. Why then, Chris, and will you guys please help me out here? Why then, Chris, are they polishing this guy up? You get the documentary comes out. You get the three match program with Brock freaking Lesnar, who's the only guy in the past 10 years that has beaten Roman Reigns. Okay? Cleanly. And so you are pushing, you are strapping the rocket ship to Cody Rhodes until he gets that rematch for the title. And this time, if they don't put it on him, well, then I'm going to call you. You're the first guy I'm going to call and say, you know what, dude, you're right. They're never going to put it on him because they won't.
They're idiots if they don't, because everything they've been doing, whether you like it or you don't, I'm just stating reality and facts as they present themselves at this point. Cody Rhodes is going to be the face of that company. They're positioning Cody Rhodes to be the franchise. They're positioning Cody Rhodes to be that next superhero, all-important babyface. They're positioning him to carry whatever the next phase of this company is. He's going to be the guy that's going to do that.
Well, again, I'm still saying they're doing all this because they're kissing his ass because of Stardust.
But I mean, I look at it and it's like guys have had bad gimmicks like that before and been brought back in, and they didn't turn around and say, well, we gave you a bad gimmick, let's make you the heavyweight champion. I mean, they didn't call Terry Taylor up after the Red Rooster and say, okay, Terry, we're going to give you the world title and make you the guy, because we realized we fucked up with the Red Rooster.
No, but it's the Rhodes name.
And, that is a huge difference. It's the Rhodes name. And I was a fan of Cody Rhodes before he even got in the business, when he just did the Hall of Fame speech for Dusty, when he inducted Dusty. And I went,
yeah,
okay, that's the one that got Dusty his gift of gab, because Dustin's an amazing worker. Dustin is probably one of those guys that should be four or five on anybody's all-time list of greatest workers.
Sure.
But Dustin didn't get the gift of gab.
But he also, right, he was never the man, right? He was never the heavyweight champion.
Because he never got the promo. He could work his ass off, and he was an amazing hand. But he didn't get that gift of gab. He didn't get that from Dusty. Cody did. Cody absolutely inherited that. And yeah, you can make Cody your guy. And in WWE, he has all of the things that they want. I know there's places where, like AEW, especially what AEW has become, Cody was never going to be the franchise in that AEW. He doesn't fit with what they want. But in WWE, what he molded himself into after they got rid of him, what he molded himself into the guy that's like, okay, I'm the prototype for what WWE is going to want when they look for a franchise guy.
Yeah.
Dad, do you want to talk about me being a wrestler?
Oh, yeah. Tony wants to become a professional wrestler. He already has his ring name picked out.
How old is he?
He'll be 11 in October.
Are you looking at that kind of on the like, Dad's done it and Dad knows how bad it is, don't do it? Or are you looking at
it's more along the lines of he wants Dad to be his manager, so I told him I'm going to go ahead. There. Yep, there he is.
Superstars of the future.
Oh, my gosh. Well,
the Potter wrestling family. Oh. You saw it here first, folks.
Yeah, I'm just glad that Anthony's name isn't Harry. Right. That's all. All right,
yeah.
So no, well, I'll tell you what, kids. You got a guy there who's, obviously been, had his feet in the business and can help you guide in the business. If you guys still feel that way 5 years from now, well, then, yeah, I want to talk to you then. And we'll be glad to have you on here and talk about that when that time comes, when you guys are getting old enough to start training and really, get the ball rolling on it. So,
and he wants to go train with the Wild Samoans.
There you go. And why not? I mean,
I told him he's going to get stretched out and he's going to wish he never did, but that's where he wants to go.
Yeah, but I mean, that'll prove whether or not he can do it. Can he hack it or not, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
You put him in with those, blah, blah, blah. Great show. Love you guys. Thanks, Chris, for your participation. And I told you, patience. Cody Rhodes will be the champion. Now, I speak on behalf of all fat guys everywhere that you guys agreed way too much during this damn show, and I wasn't able to sit here and eat my damn popcorn. Just saying.
Hey, That was an accident.
Yeah.
It was a happy accident, but it was cool.
I've warned you, and I've warned everybody a million times. Is that like I'm an old man in a young guy's body, especially when it comes to professional wrestling. I want my goddamn wrestling. I want my old school territory type wrestling.
So now, speaking of, there's Elizabeth right there. There's my Elizabeth. All right? And yes, she's named after the Macho Man's Elizabeth. That's her right there. But anyway, she loves wrestling too. She loves SummerSlam. Liz, what did you think of SummerSlam? You good? And, you know, we completely enjoyed when who won the Battle Royal? LA Knight. They're saying it. They're saying it at home. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're going to get out of here. But in the meantime, this man right here, my broadcast partner on Around the Turnbuckle and at 3WA, will be at Red Lion for SWO Summer Series 8, featuring AEW superstar Sonny Kiss and former WWE superstar Ricardo Rodriguez. You don't want to miss that big event. And the professor's going to be calling the action right there. Classic Johnny Potter. That's Natalia. Stop climbing all over me. I got to finish this. Classic Johnny Potter. Sir, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. And when and if you get back into the business, we want to have you back on and to see what's going on with you. And we're going to be following Anthony. We're going to be following Anthony. We're going to be following you guys, making sure to, keeping track of when you guys finally do get into business, because it sounds like you love it as much as Dad does and as much as the professor and I do.
Oh, trust me, I'll be making a note. I got a big mouth, so.
Can you guys get out? Oh, my God. They're climbing all over me. All right. Anyway, Professor, you got any parting gifts before we get out of here?
I just want to thank Johnny for his time, and sorry for disappointing him by agreeing with him so much.
Sorry for disappointing me for not having popcorn.
I kind of enjoy disappointing you from time to time, though.
That's not very nice.
I apologize for disappointing you.
I blame Jim Cornette. All right, so with that in mind,
I'm out on Saturday to Red Lion. Huge card at the Chapel Church. We'll be sharing posts all week. I'm pretty sure I'll be calling in the Inside the Squared Circle this week.
Wednesday
on the commentary situation for you guys.
Wednesday night on Facebook. Look up Wolfman Baker, Classic Johnny Potter, and everybody who's watching. Check out Inside the Squared Circle, and that you'll learn all you need to know about SWO Summer.
I tried to, but then about maybe 2 minutes into Professor Keith's commentary, I'm asleep. So I can't help it. I can't, but I try.
All right. Anyway, guys, we're going to get out of here. Next Sunday, guys, on the 13th, there is no show. I'm on vacation. The professor is going to be recouping from, calling the matches this Saturday in Red Lion. But the following Sunday, on the bottom of your screen there, Merrick Miami, the superstar, is here, and he is going to be. He has a big announcement that he's going to reveal right here on Around the Turnbuckle. For Classic Johnny Potter and the Professor, I'm the Big Al Boski. This was Around the Turnbuckle. We'll see you guys very, very soon. Enjoy.
You think you know me?
Oh, yeah. If you smile.
Calculations are correct. When this baby hits,
I say? Yeah.